Reset with G. Scott.
It's another episode of The Reset. There's three things that we want to cover in today's episode. Number one, you're about to get a brutally honest recap of the Week 1 game that happened in Lumen Field. Number two, we're going to give you Week 1 overreaction. And number three, we need to have a conversation about Geno Smith. Are you bought in? I have some numbers and some stats that says we'll see. But first, let's be brutally honest about the recap of this game. First of all, the Seahawks are 1-0 after a Denver Broncos team that comes to town with a Bo Nix that is better than a lot of you all actually think that he is. Remember, he had 60 starts in college. And even though I think Sean Payton is an overrated head coach, which he is, I do think he recognizes talent considering he had a quarterback that he had in Drew Brees. Let me tell you something. Bo Nix is not a bad quarterback. He came in town and threw it 42 times. And I know everybody's going to talk about how bad he was, but he came into a very hostile environment in Lumen Field. That's number one. Number two, he played against a very, very good defensive team and scheme with the Seattle Seahawks. Not many rookie quarterbacks could have done what he did. Go ahead and do me a favor. Check out what happened with the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams. How'd that go? But then again, you probably know because you recognize the Bears offensive coordinator. And speaking of offensive coordinator, it's a perfect segue to say, Mama, we got our man. That's right. Ryan Grubb is that dude. That's right. Adjustments happened in the first half. It was a half in which a lot of us wanted to turn off the TV. You wanted to leave the stadium. As a matter of fact, you said some things in that first quarter, in that first half, that you wish that you could take back. A lot of you all are talking about the offensive line. The offensive line, let me say it for you. They were cheeks. The offensive line was cheeks in the first half. But you can't tell the first half without telling the second half. The offensive line was incredible the second half. I love the way Ryan Grubbs made the adjustments and leaned in on this offensive line in the run game. K9 the third, loved how he got busy. But the offensive line, if you're going to talk about how bad they were in the first half, talk about how good they were in the second half. I got to be brutally honest because I'm going to say the things that some of y'all, you need to start saying. Geno Smith, in the second half, I thought he was excellent. Went and watched the replay to all 22. Geno Smith played a very good game. My thoughts and my reaction is simple. This Seahawks team, especially on offense, is willing to make adjustments. Adjustments sometimes are important. That's not just in football, that's in life. You need to make adjustments to have sometimes when your first half ain't going well, you need your second half to be better. So I'm going to get to my guys here with the producers and see what their thoughts were. But overall, I love the Seahawks team. I love that they can play defense and run the ball. Defense wins championships. And oh, by the way, the Seahawks 1-0. Let's go, baby. All right, Frank, Paul, I had to get it in, man. Settle me down. Settle me down.
That was a lot.
There was a lot. Frank, come on, talk to me.
I'm just glad that this team mirrors what we want out of Seahawks football. Obviously, it's great to have a great quarterback anchor your team, but smash mouth defense, strong run game with Sean Alexander, Marshawn Lynch, Legion of Boom. Those are the things that we want Seattle football to be defined by. That's what this new era is going to be defined by. It's a great way to start the season against Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos.
Paul, you're a Denver Bronco fan. You wearing that funky ass shirt right now, representing those Denver Broncos. Go ahead and tell us what your thoughts were. By the way, the Seattle Seahawks own the Broncos. You call us daddy. Do you understand that? Whenever you are talking about the Seahawks, like Baby says, put some respect on it.
You can say that because the recent results, sure. But Broncos still have a more recent Super Bowl. Just a reminder for that. And on top of that, if you actually sit there and say that this game was completely dominated, and the game with Russell Wilson, remind you, the Seahawks got a couple of lucky breaks. I come away with this from a Broncos fan not super discouraged. You listed the things that we talked about, G. Hostile environment, defensive-minded coach. There was a lot. I would argue there was no rookie quarterback dealing with more adversity in week one than Bo Nix. And remember, first Broncos rookie quarterback to start week 1 since John Elway. This is the first time us as Broncos fans have gone through this experience. So as much as I wanted to see more, the biggest disappointments I have, when good teams, when any team gives you opportunities like the Seahawks gave you in the first half, you have to capitalize. And it's a little less frustrating again with that Bo Nix-led offense, because I could see Russell Wilson creating the same exact game against the Seahawks. I could see Russell Wilson producing the same exact game that Bo Nix produced yesterday, and it's infinitely more frustrating because Russell Wilson's supposed to be the vet and take you to that next level. I looked at that game, I'm like, that's a rookie going through some growing pains, and they're still there. However, there's still a lot to be desired with the Broncos. I didn't love the play calling. I don't love the amount. I didn't love the fact that the running game fell flat for the Broncos, and I don't love the fact that they weren't able to keep up the defensive pressure in the second half. But at the end of its day, I think the big takeaway I have from that game was you saw, even with the new coach, you saw a veteran team full of veteran players that have played together for a while versus a team that's a younger team rebuilding, recouping, and the Broncos couldn't adjust to the adjustments. And to be a great team in the NFL, you don't need to just make the adjustments. You have to make the adjustments to the adjustments. But I know for a fact, G and Frank, you guys were sitting there real nervous because the last thing you wanted to do is have me come on this show after the way that first half opened up. And that's an eye-opener for the Seahawks. You can't do that against San Francisco. You can't do that against the Rams. And I'm going to say it here. You can't do that against Arizona this year, or else you're going to find yourself in some trouble. So a lot of work left to be for the Broncos, but I'm not sitting here too down and disappointed. And as for Seahawks takeaways, Kenneth Walker, man, I was waiting for the question marks, and I know it's a bad Broncos against the run, but if that's not what you're hoping for, a bounce back for that run game in the second half for the Seahawks, you got to love that. That's got to be one of the things that's on the top of your guys' mind.
God damn. You was just talking for 10 minutes all to say that y'all 0-1. It took you 10 minutes to tell the whole world how the Seahawks won the game. If you're going to tell a story, make sure you tell this. Dude, I told you before, the Seahawks offense was cheeks in the first half, but they absolutely dominated you guys in the second half. They had their way with you. So I don't care how long you talk, and you can get to the point you can talk about all these things. It took you a long time to say that your damn Denver Broncos lose to the Seahawks again, and they are 0-1.
I can't wait till they both are in the same spot with the playoffs, both sitting on the outside looking in, or maybe just barely scraping in on the wild card teams.
The next topic I want to talk about
Hold on, actually, G, I want to catch you there before you go. We didn't air this segment, but before we were talking about, you actually gave me a little bit of grief because I was talking before the game about the importance of solid offensive line play, and that the fact that the Broncos invested heavily in signing their offensive linemen. I'm curious, when you look at that game and when you look at that things, how important is it to really invest in offensive line, focus on offensive line? You really can't do much if the offensive line is letting up 2 safeties in the first half.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. You know what? Here's why I don't spend a lot of time with the offensive line conversation. And I'm being serious. This doesn't just go for Seahawk football. This goes for football in general. How many times are you all having a discussion about what went wrong in the offense? It is low-hanging fruit. Most people blame two sets of people. It's either the referees or the offensive line. It's low-hanging fruit because the same people that blame the offensive line, you don't want to give them credit when there is a great run game or when things are happening. You don't want to give them credit when they protect the quarterback and they throw a touchdown. You want to give all this credit to Kenneth Walker III, which great. That's fine. He does deserve the credit. But make sure in that same breath you give the offensive line. So yes, while should be the investing into the offensive line, I'm also old enough to remember when people used to talk bad about Breno Giacomini. I'm also remember when they used to talk bad about Russell Okung. And back then, how they would complain about the offensive line. This ain't new. So look, I told you the offensive line did not do well in the first half, but in the second half they did. Speaking of doing well, one of the other people that we need to talk about, and one person that we do not give enough respect to, we call him, oh, he's underrated, and oh, we love Tyler Lockett is the captain. Tyler Lockett led the Seahawks with 6 catches. 6 catches on 7 targets. Bruh has 77 yards, and on 3rd down and 6, Frank, he had a one-hand grab to seal the game.
Yep.
You go over there training camp. Did you see Tyler Lockett? Nope. Preseason, did you see Tyler Lockett? Nope. Everybody was trying to, we know it. We were already ready to bless and christen the next person that was going to replace Tyler Lockett. And the truth be told, Tyler Lockett needs a statue. Yeah, I said it. He is the most undervalued Seahawk of all time, and he does nothing but come through. It reminds me of you getting with that person that is ugly, but they got good credit and a good job. Right? They always come through, but you don't appreciate them more. You don't want to call them on Friday and Saturday nights. You want to call them on Monday and Tuesday. Give Tyler Lockett a statue and put some more respect on his name.
Frank, maybe you can relate on this. I mean, you got to have a guy like Tyler Lockett, right? You got to have a guy that you can count on in that situation. Especially, it wasn't much of a game for DK yesterday. I mean, a battle with Patrick Surtain. I mean, those are two of the best in the business going at it. But when DK's not doing it, and you can have Tyler Lockett as your veteran guy to throw to on third down, that has to build so much more confidence in your team to know that you have not only a good receiver, but a consistent receiver. What you said, G, 7 targets, 6 catches. You throw the ball to Lockett, good chance it's ending up in his hands.
Yeah, I mean, he's the ultimate compliment in the way that he can take over. Like Brandon Cooks is the number 2 on the Cowboys. There's really not a world where Brandon Cooks is going to outshine CeeDee Lamb. Tyler Lockett, the ultimate compliment, can say, actually, you know what? I have the matchup this game. I'm going to take over. So I guess when you're talking about statue, I was going to ask if you have him in higher regard than Doug Baldwin. I think they're very similar receivers in our franchise history.
Woo! You just put me on the spot.
And to be fair, Doug Baldwin's like arguably my favorite Seahawk of all time.
Is Tyler Lockett, but are we sitting here even right now saying Tyler Lockett is the most important receiver on the Seahawks? Are we saying that right now?
No, but I mean, he showed it in week 1. I mean, he showed in the second half.
You know what? You know what I'm going to do? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to treat this discussion like kids. All you parents out there, you know what I'm talking about? All you parents out there that you got 3 kids, you got 2 kids, you got 4 kids, and somebody asks you which one's your favorite, and you say none of them. None of them are my favorite. But deep down, you got a favorite. You just can't tell nobody. Okay, let's get to the next topic that I want to talk about. Before I was going to do overreactions, I want to save overreactions to last. I want to start with the Geno Smith conversation. Now, some of you all might say things to me like, gee, this isn't a big deal. Yes, it is. And here's the question. Are you bought in on Geno Smith all the way? And let me tell you why I'm asking this question. Frank Paul, when I was in the stadium on Sunday at Lumen Field, in that first quarter, the reaction that I heard, the reaction that I felt was like, wow, a few mistakes and people were ready to be done with Geno. I want to say this first. The Seahawks can only really have a successful season with Geno. I want anybody to think that I'm wavering. Geno is the answer for this team. Okay? But there's something that's happening where I don't think most are bought in. It reminds me of when your mama get a new boyfriend. She got the new boyfriend, and you cool with it, but you're not really all the way sold and bought in on the things. Let's get to it. Frank said something earlier on, and you talked about jersey sales. And the other day at Lumen Field, when I saw and heard what was being said about Geno. And I thought, and it made me look around in that moment, Frank. And I started to look at jerseys and what jerseys people were wearing. Most NFL team, the franchise quarterback has the leading selling jersey. So instead of me giving my opinion, I got some facts for you.
I mean, you got to get to Zach Wilson level for that jersey not to be sold.
It's crazy. So I look around, I'm like, hardly nobody's wearing Geno Smith jerseys. So if you're listening right now, do you have a Geno Smith jersey? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But let me give you the facts. Right now, according to the NFLPA, when they released their top jersey sales, DK Metcalf is the leader of this team, but he's 24th in the league overall. Who's the next player? You're probably thinking, oh, Jackson Smith-Njigba. You're probably thinking Tyler Lockett. You probably think Geno Smith. No, it is a player that is no longer here. It's Bobby Wagner. It's number 2.
Wow.
There's a lot of Bobby jerseys.
Okay, hold on. Let me get to number 3. Number 3 is Tyler Lockett. So again, it feels like I like Geno. He's talented. Great second half in that game. But Frank, I don't know if people are bought in like they say they are.
Can we see a game, maybe this is asking too much, can we see a game where he wins it for us, where he bails the team out? Can we name a game where he's done that?
Because you wouldn't say he won the game for you yesterday, right?
No, I
mean,
wouldn't.
Especially the way it started.
He made changes alongside Grubb. He started working with what the offensive line could give him. So faster throws, screens. Oh, they're taking out my receivers. We're going to use the running backs more. But I would say Ken Walker had 84 of his rush yards in the second half. The defense didn't allow a touchdown until the very end when they had a 2-score lead. The offensive line improved, as you've talked about. Tyler Lockett was amazing. We're not talking about Geno Smith's throw to Tyler Lockett. We're talking about the one-handed catch. I would love to see a game where Geno, similar to Lamar Jackson playing the Chiefs, ultimately on a loss, and people are going to talk about those red zone throws. Mm-hmm. But Baltimore, you and I had the thought that they were in 2 separate teams. They were not really close. And Baltimore, with Lamar scrambling 16 times for 120 yards, was the only reason they were close.
The only reason.
You know, and Geno called his own number maybe and got that 34-yard rushing TD, and that's something we really, really would love to see out of him. His pinned tweet is his MPH in practice. But sometimes I feel like we win a game, and he supported us. He game managed it. I would love to see a game where he wins it for us.
Right. Now, for everybody that's listening, Paul, if you guys want to say, G, you're correct. Look, it was an observation that I had in that game. There's a lot of things that were said, a lot of opinions that were had. And by the way, football makes you emotional, right? You say some things. Hey, Paul, Frank, it reminds me of when you're married in your 20s. When you're married in your 20s, you want to get a divorce for every little thing. Well, in the first half of that game, a lot of us Seahawks fans were passionate. We was ready to give up. We were ready to throw this offense in the trash, and they go ahead and they prove us wrong.
I mean, how can we say we're sold on Geno Smith as a collective fan base? There's too much Sam Howell chatter. Every single time Sam Howell, every time Geno has 4 bad throws in a row, go on Twitter. If you're in Seattle, number one trending thing is Sam Howell.
Here we go. It's now to end this thing. Let's talk about week 1 overreactions. I'm going to go ahead and start off. I mean, these are hot takes that you have that you actually, they might sound crazy, but you stand on. Here's mine. Seahawks will have the best defense in the National Football League this year.
All right.
That's my overreaction. Let me say it again. They will have the best defense. You see it. You saw the flying around. Go ahead, do me a favor. Give me that stat, Frank, that PFF had last year for the Seahawks defense. Give it to me.
Most missed tackles in 2023, Seahawks defense.
You saw that, you hear that, and then you see what you saw yesterday. Every single time, Paul, you know this to be true. Every single time wide receivers would catch it for the Broncos, man, there was a Seahawks there so fast, it reminded me on how flies in the summertime get to your food.
Yeah,
they was right there.
So and they made a point on that on the broadcast, actually. The broadcasters mentioned on slowing down plays. They were saying, look at how quickly the Seahawks are getting to the ball. Look at how the fact that they even asked on the broadcast at one point, they said, what are the Broncos' yards after catch this game? Because they can't be much, because you nailed it, G. That was one of the things. There was no big play possibility because the open field tackling, especially, one of the hardest things to do in football. I think a lot of people sit there and say, I can go and make that tackle. Good luck making an open field tackle against an elite wide receiver. But
momentum.
With momentum. So I think that actually, G, when you're talking about that defense taking the next step, when you can improve in that area, that's a great sign. But to really launch it, was it the scheme? Was it the moving? Was it the new coach? What's got you so confident after that? Was it just the tackling?
It was everything. Sometimes you can't explain it. Sometimes you're in love with that person and you don't know what it is about them. Sometimes it's everything. And you know you can feel it with the Seahawks team. You can feel the energy. You saw Reek out there. You saw Tyrell Dotson out there at linebacker. You guys saw Kayvon Wallace out there. You saw Rayshawn Jenkins out there. You saw Julian Love out there. You want to talk about Leo? You want to talk about Mr. Williams from the New York Giants? Thank you, Giants. Y'all trash anyways. Did you see Leo Williams? Shout out to Jay Reed down there in the trenches. You see that run stuffing capabilities? Remember, the last 2 years, and by the way, if you guys say G is a little animated, yes, I am.
You animated Denver.
I am. Because it's week 1, baby, and it's hard to win in this league. It's hard. So the fact that the way they're winning, the Seahawks team defensively, the last 2 seasons, ranked 30th and 31st against the run. Them days are over, baby. You can see it right now. Shout out to Reek Woolen. He looked good getting that interception right there. Oh, y'all see Spoon out there? So anyways.
And shout out Jerome Baker. That's a guy we haven't talked about a lot. We thought he might be a weakness on this team. He had a couple of great plays.
This defense is great. So, my week 1 overreaction, this Seahawks defense will be the best in the National Football League. Week 1 overreaction, Frank.
All right, I have a couple national ones, but let's stick with Seattle on this one. There's no way they finish worse than 10-7.
Oh.
There's no way. There's just no way. This team is too well coached. There's too much talent on both sides of the ball. We're already seeing improvements in a half. Wait till we have a full week. Wait till there's a bye week. I'm going through their schedule. Detroit, Buffalo, New York Jets, Green Bay. 4 games, 4 potential losses. And then 3-3 against the division. That's 7 losses. I can't see anything worse than that. This team looks so legit to me. I've had them pegged as a 11-6, 12-5 team, and I think there's no way they go worse than 10-7. I don't know if that wins you the division because the NFC West seems very loaded, but it definitely gets you a playoff spot.
I just want to say, if you guys heard Frank, one thing I like about the way Frank thinks, Frank's not as emotional as me. So a lot of time when Frank gives his points, it is really stat driven and it's really like this whole computer stuff that he does all the time. Yeah, I make fun of that. Paul, your week 1 overreaction.
My week 1 overreaction, I'm going to stick it with the Denver Broncos here. They will not be last place in the AFC West. In fact, I think they're going to finish 2nd place, and I think Bo Nix is really going to impress. I think that I'm mostly saying that not because I saw the Broncos really do anything that made me super enthusiastic, like the pass rush, like just some of the different – I just like that there's a different vibe around the Broncos without the expectations of hoping for Russell Wilson to be better. So I think they're going to be that. But it's not just the Broncos. I don't know how much you guys got to actually see of the Raiders and the Chargers yesterday, but I am selling on those teams like hotcakes. There was a lot of bad football being played yesterday, and I'd argue that game might have been one of the worst ones played yesterday. So that's my initial overreaction was the Broncos are better than they are, but they're going to benefit from the fact that their division outside of the Chiefs is a much, much weaker one. Seahawks focus, though, I'm all aboard on the Ken Walker train. I think he is going to be a top 3 running back in football this year. If the Seahawks can create and do a run game, he will fly under the radar. That guy he was making space. He's clearly involved in a lot of aspects of this game, and he's someone that the Seahawks turn to and rely to. I think that if he stays healthy, he's the player that's going to make this Seahawks offense better and close to an elite level, and potentially even save his boy Geno some trouble as well.
There's a great joke about Ken Walker online when it was if he's playing with the 27th ranked offensive line instead of the 31st, it's just a highlight reel Barry Sanders. It's great stuff.
Yeah, I just wanted. I know you touched on the AFC West. You talked about the. Of course, your Broncos. You talked about the Chargers, and you talked about the Raiders.
The Raiders.
All that kind of stuff. I think the AFC West is hot trash.
I legit it's
Mahomes
crazy.
Is there? How can we say it's hot trash?
But it's crazy. I did not think it was going to be this bad. I seriously think
Is varsity against the freshman team for the Kansas City Chiefs?
I think you guys are sleeping on the Chargers. I really believe in the
Chargers.
Chargers.
If J.K. Dobbins is the guy leading the way for you, and
he was so good.
He was so good, but let's have J.K. Dobbins. Let's have J.K. Dobbins play more than 6 games before.
J.K., I love you, and I'll never say anything mean about your injury history on Twitter.
Before we leave, I just want to touch on a non-football conversation, and I feel like it needs to come up because it came up during the stream when Brother Frank and I were on the stream on Sunday. And I want to bring it back because it was such a hot topic. Paul, you weren't here, but I want to bring it back again. As you all know, I think a great burger is better than a great steak. And I'm a burger fan. So what happened is I brought up who has the best burger in the state of Washington. I went on ahead as far as number one, it is Miners in Yakima. Shout out to Miners in Yakima. If you've never been there before, it has the perfect balance of a burger, the fries to match, and the shake to wash it down. Nothing is better than, but if you just burger, you go Yakima. And then I just brought it back on the western side of things, along I-5, where it's the best. I took it down to Tacoma for Frisco Freeze. Shout out to them. So Paul, wanted you to jump in on this conversation. Frank did as well. Type in the comments your best burger in the state. Paul, what do you got?
Have you ever heard of Boomers? I believe it's in West Seattle, and it is a just classic burger. I'm actually trying to just make sure I'm looking up and I'm going to get it correct here where it is. But just classic. One of the first times I ever came out here, just simple, easy, simple burger, big old thing of fries, and it was just one of my first memories of actually coming out here to visit, and that's up in Bellingham. Actually, I used to go up and visit Bellingham quite a bit. So it's just a big long building, and it's the menu's kind of got that old school vibe. When you're walking into a burger place and the menu looks as old as the building, you're in a good spot. You're looking as confident as that. And I'm also a big fan of, I like Red Mill as well down here.
Red Mill's good.
Red Mill?
Yeah, Red Mill's good.
Red Mill makes a good one.
And by the way, shout out to Red Mill. What I love about you guys, Red Mill, you guys, for the price.
Yeah.
You guys can give a good deal you can get a burger for under $13. You can get some of their main ones for $7, $8. You can get some of their double cheeseburgers for $11 to $13. Red Mill, shout out to you. Frank, what do you got?
I live in the Capitol Hill neighborhood. Shout out to Two Doors Down. Linda's Tavern's also a good one. And then I did get reminded though, someone wrote it in our live stream, Jimmy Mac's. I am pro Jimmy Mac's.
There's a lot of burgers I got to try. You guys are naming these names. I haven't even heard of these
Two Doors Down
things.
is wild. They'll do the cream cheese. They got their home brewed pickles. They got a bunch of stuff. I love that one. But Jimmy Mac's, that one was really good. I think their
Quick
bacon
question
cheeseburger.
before we go. You just said something with cream cheese on a burger. I've done cream cheese on the dogs. I've never done cream cheese on a burger. As a matter of fact, was with Cam Chancellor and his smash burger that he's had, and they had debuted that with some of the, shout out to Cam and the smash burgers, but some of those burgers having cream cheese on it. But here's a question for you guys. Have you ever had a cheeseburger with peanut butter?
Oh, I haven't had it. I've heard about it, though.
No, you've talked about this. No, I haven't.
Woo-wee. All right, it's time. Let's get to it. It's time for the X's and O's. Watch the entire movie. That means don't make all of the judgments in the first part of the movie. How many times in that last Seahawks game at Lumen Field did you say in the first half, I'm done with this team. This offense is terrible. It's the same old thing. Well, that's what happens in life. You might have done something for a certain period of time, but you want a new change. And sometimes people judge you based on the first part of your life. This is why you have to watch the entire movie. Everything does not remain the same way it didn't remain the same with the Seahawks. Adjustments were made, and in the second half, you saw a different team. Well, that could be you. You can make adjustments right now to your life so that you can have a better second half. Come on now. Let's quit judging these movies based on the first part of the movie. Let it play out. Give it time to breathe. That's the message for you. Watch the entire movie. I appreciate you rocking with me. Love you for that. And as always, be kind.